Let me ask you something honestly. Have you ever watched a cinematic video online and thought, there's no way I could ever make something like that? Because you don't have a film crew, you don't know how to edit, and you definitely don't know anything about filmmaking. Now here's the surprising part. Today, anyone, even beginners, can create cinematic style videos without filmmaking experience, without expensive gear, and without complicated software. In this video, I'm going to show you how I use Higgsfield Cinema Studio to create cinematic video content step by step in plain English with zero technical overwhelm. Let's get into it. Hey, I'm Rob. I help creators over 40 build confidence on YouTube and use simple tools to create content that actually attracts leads and makes money. And if you're someone who feels like AI video tools are either too technical or too expensive or just not made for people like us, this video is for you because Higgsfield is doing something different. And I've talked about them before because they have an incredible tool for YouTube thumbnails, and I'll link that video at the end if you want to check it out. Honestly, they're building one of the most creator-friendly AI platforms I've tested. And today I want to walk you through their Cinema Studio from the perspective of a real creator, not a tech expert. Let's talk about the real problem first. Most people don't struggle with ideas. They struggle with execution. They know what they want to say, but they get stuck at editing or visuals or camera confidence and maybe complicated software. And that's where most people quit. Cinema Studio exists to remove those roadblocks. So instead of juggling scripts and footage and editing timelines and endless settings, Cinema Studio handles the entire cinematic workflow for you. You describe what you want, and the platform helps you generate it. And suddenly, what felt impossible becomes manageable. This matters especially for creators over 40 because we just don't want to spend months learning film theory. We want tools that work without making us feel behind. All right, let me show you what this actually looks like. When you log into Higgsfield AI, you're going to see several tools, and today we're focusing on Cinema Studio. So I'll click into Cinema Studio now, and notice this right away. The interface is clean. There's no clutter, there's no confusing menus. You're not being asked to build a film. You're being guided through a creation process. Think of this less like editing software and more like a smart assistant that helps you make cinematic content step by step. This is where beginners usually relax because nothing here feels intimidating whatsoever. Here's the simplest way to understand Cinema Studio. You give it direction and it handles the production. You're not manually cutting clips. You're not color grading footage. You're not worrying about transitions. Cinema Studio is designed to generate cinematic video scenes, maintain visual consistency, apply film-style motion and pacing, and output something that feels polished. So this is incredibly useful for YouTube intros or story-driven videos, brand storytelling, cinematic B-roll, or even short film concepts. And the key word here is workflow. Cinema Studio isn't just one feature, it's a guided process. And that's why Higgsfield calls this a creator-first filmmaking experience. You don't need to know how films are made. You just need to know what you want to communicate. Let me walk you through a very simple use case. Let's say you want to create a cinematic intro for a YouTube channel or a brand. Well, inside Cinema Studio, I'm going to go down to the bottom here, and it needs an image to start with. So I'm going to give it some instructions to create an opening image. And for me, because my audience is aspiring YouTubers over 40, I'm going to tell it to create a cinematic image depicting people over the age of 40 learning how to create a YouTube channel that makes money. And I'm going to get it to generate that at a 2K resolution. I could have it do up to 4 in terms of batch size, but I'm going to just generate one for the purpose of this example and see what it gives us. So let's generate it. Okay, it's generated a pretty good image for us of what looks to be people over the age of 40 learning about YouTube. So I now want to use that image and turn it into a cinematic video, the video we want for our YouTube channel opening. In order to do that, I'm going to go back down to the bottom here and click on Video. And I'm going to use that image we just created as the start frame for that video. So I've got a bunch of thumbnails and stuff here I've already created. Here is the image that we just generated. I'll click on that, and that is now the start frame for the video. So now I need to give it just some really simple instructions about what kind of video we want it to create. So I'm going to tell it to do a cinematic opening shot, slow camera movement, dramatic lighting, modern atmosphere, professional film look. That should be enough to give us something half decent. Now, it's worth noting that you can customize some of these things rather than just waiting to see what it generates on its own. So you can give it specific instructions about the camera movement if you want to. Zoom in, zoom out, tilt up, tilt down, drone shots, dolly left, dolly right. If you're familiar with the film industry, you understand what some of these instructions mean, but it all relates to camera movement, and if you play with it a little bit, you'll get a good sense fairly quickly of exactly what it does. You can change the duration of the video from 5 seconds to 10 seconds if you want to. There's some adjustments for audio and slow motion if you want to do slow motion. And you can adjust the batch size. So that means you can have, rather than just one video generated, you could have it generate up to 4 if you want to have some options once it's all finished, and then choose the best of the 4. I'm going to trust it for the example and just generate 1 and see what it gives us. So remember, I've got the image it generated as the start frame, and now we're going to generate the video. Here we go. All right, in under a minute, it has created our cinematic YouTube channel video opening. So I'm going to click it a couple of times so we can play it through and see how it turned out. Okay, not too bad. You can hear some what sounds like mouse clicking in the background. And that's because if you remember when I generated the video down at the bottom here, I'll just close this out and so we can go back. Down at the bottom here, I left audio on, and I'm not really a fan of that audio it generated. Although it sounds like it belongs in an office, it doesn't really match up. So the nice thing about this is I'm not locked into this video. I could have generated 4, remember, but I chose 1, but I'm not happy with it because of that audio. So I'm just going to click generate again and see what it does. Okay, we've got our next generation of the video again in just under a minute. Let's have a look at this one.
Verdange en ladders in als warm en inkscolored press. Verdange en ladders in als warm en inkscolored press.
So interesting. This seems to be better in terms of the activity happening in the video, but they've added some different audio with the lady actually speaking, although she's not saying anything anybody can understand. So what I might do next is go back in and give it some instructions to say some specific words, or I might generate a whole other version of the video with no audio whatsoever. In fact, that's probably what I'm going to do next. But you get the idea. You just have to give Cinema Studio very simple instructions in plain language, and it will do the heavy lifting for you. Now, if you are a bit of a techie, I just want to go back to the image we created to start with, because if you're familiar with some film stuff like cameras, you can actually change the type of camera that it is simulating when it generates the image. So we've got an Alexa 35 here. You can change it to Aeroflex 16SR, Panavision. There's all kinds of options. I think I saw an IMAX on here someplace. Yeah, there's the IMAX film camera. And then you can change the lenses as well that it replicates, and of course the focal length you can play around with too. So that is up to you. If you are more technically inclined, but I know most people watching this channel are not. So just stick with your simple instructions and you're going to get some pretty good results. It really is creative freedom without creative overwhelm. And for someone over 40 who wants quality without complexity, this is really a big win. I've tested a lot of AI tools and most of them fall into one of two traps. They're either too technical or too gimmicky. Cinema Studio avoids both. It doesn't try to impress you with complicated controls. It really tries to empower you to actually create. And that's why Higgsfield is gaining attention. They're not building tools for engineers. They're building tools for creators, especially creators who want cinematic results but don't want a learning curve. And they don't want enterprise pricing, which brings us to something important. Let's talk briefly about pricing. Higgsfield positions itself as one of the most affordable AI platforms in this space. And that matters because most creators are not running studios. We're building channels, brands, side incomes. Cinema Studio gives you access to high-end cinematic visuals without high-end costs. And I'll include the direct link in the description so you can explore it for yourself without pressure. This isn't a toy, although it feels like a pretty fun toy. This is real creative potential. And we're only at the beginning. Creators who learn how to use tools like this now are positioning themselves ahead of the curve, not behind it. Here's my honest takeaway. Cinema Studio doesn't replace creativity, it removes friction. It lets you focus on ideas instead of software. And for creators over 40 who want to show up confidently without drowning in tech, that's exactly what we need. So if you want to try Cinema Studio for yourself, I have put the official link in the description box below. Create your own cinematic video. Experiment with what you can do. And if this video helped you see what's actually possible with AI today, give it a like, leave me a comment, and let me know what you would like to create. I'll see you in the next video.